All right, let's go ahead and crack open this case file. For this explainer, we're going to step directly into the shoes of a lead investigator to profile one of the most infamous, absolutely textbook narcissistic phantoms in American true crime history. We're looking at the Zodiac, an unidentified serial killer who completely paralyzed Northern California in the late 1960s and early 70s. But look, we aren't just going to recount the tragic events here. We're going to dig into the evidence, the bizarre communications, and most importantly, the psychological blueprint of a killer who craved the spotlight every bit as much as he craved violence.
So here's how we're going to break this down step by step. We'll start by tracking the initial blood trail, then see how the killer found his voice, examine his shocking escalation into public terror, look at his attempts to expand the kill zone, and finally analyze those infamous last taunts.
Okay, Section 1, the initial blood trail.
When you look at this chronological progression, is genuinely chilling. Officially, he's connected to 5 murders, right? But the early warning signs actually start way before that. Back in 1963, high schoolers Robert Domingos and Linda Edwards were murdered in Santa Barbara. The ammo used at the scene? Winchester Western Super X. That is the exact same, very specific ammunition the Zodiac would use years later. Then in 1966, student Sherry Jo Bates is killed in Riverside, and the taunting letters that followed were signed with a symbol that looks kind of like a Z. By December 1968, the confirmed Zodiac MO really kicks into gear in Benicia, followed by the Vallejo attack in July '69. At this point, he's strictly targeting young couples parked in secluded areas at night.
But then, on July 4th, 1969, right after that Vallejo attack, we see a massive psychological shift. The killer actually calls the police from a payphone. The dispatcher on duty noted that he spoke in this low, totally monotonous voice and just plainly stated, "I want to report a murder. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye." So what does this tell us? He's no longer satisfied with just the physical act of killing. He needs the authorities to know exactly who is outsmarting him.
Moving on to Section 2, a killer finds his voice. It doesn't take long for the killer to realize that quick phone calls just aren't giving him the rush he wants. In the summer of '69, 3 separate San Francisco newspapers received these virtually identical letters. They each contain exactly 1/3 of a cipher. And hidden within those strange coded symbols was this absolutely boastful statement: "I like killing people because it's so much fun." Oh, and he also threatened to go on a killing spree if his ciphers weren't slapped right on the front pages.
So as investigators, this begs a really crucial question. Was the physical kill even the main goal anymore, or had it become secondary to his desperate narcissistic need for public fear? Because at this point, he's actively weaponizing the press to amplify his crimes. He's turning local, isolated tragedies into a paralyzing, citywide public spectacle. And to pull off that level of notoriety, he needed a brand. On August 4th, 1969, in a sprawling 3-page letter to the Examiner, he officially christens himself. He introduces the moniker Zodiac and starts signing his letters with that distinct, highly menacing logo, the crossed circle. So he wasn't just some anonymous phantom in the dark anymore. He had quite literally created a trademarked persona.
All right, Section 3, escalation and public terror. Let's compare his methods here, because the shift is wild. His early MO was, quite frankly, cowardly. He's hiding in the dark, shooting teenagers on isolated dirt roads. But cut to late September 1969 at Lake Berryessa, he attacks 2 college students in broad daylight. And worse, he's wearing this terrifying executioner-style hood with his crossed circle symbol stitched right onto the chest, and he stabs them. Then, literally just weeks later, he completely flips the script again. He travels to the wealthy Presidio Heights neighborhood right in San Francisco and shoots a 28-year-old cab driver named Paul Stein in the head.
The sheer audacity of what happens next is just staggering. Thanks to a mistaken police radio dispatch describing the suspect as a black man, responding officers literally walk right past a white man who perfectly matches the actual description of the killer. The Zodiac absolutely knows he just slipped through their fingers. So, to rub their noses in their own failure, he mails an envelope to the Chronicle, and inside, a bloody, torn piece of Paul Stein's shirt, accompanied by threats to shoot the tires out on a school bus and pick off the kids. I mean, he was holding the entire city hostage with pure panic.
Yet, right in the middle of mailing out bomb recipes and making these horrific threats against children, the psychology of our suspect seemingly fractures. In December 1969, he sends a letter to the famous attorney, Melvin Belli, and it includes this bizarre, almost pitiful plea: "Please help me, I cannot remain in control for much longer." Now you have to wonder, Is this a genuine moment of vulnerability from a deeply disturbed mind, or is it just another highly manipulative performance designed to keep the media hooked? We always have to assume he's playing a twisted game from every possible angle.
Let's look at Section 4, expanding the kill zone.
Okay, so his final officially confirmed kill was Paul Stein in October of '69. But as we roll into 1970, the Zodiac is getting desperate to keep his body count climbing in the public eye. He takes credit for the March 1970 highway abduction of Kathleen Johns way out near Modesto. Later on, he sends a cryptic postcard trying to link himself to the September disappearance of a casino nurse named Donna Lass up in Lake Tahoe. What he's doing here is artificially inflating his own mythos, claiming crimes across a vastly wider geographic area, whether he actually committed them or not.
And his demands during this period, they escalate into pure, unadulterated megalomania. He doesn't just want to be a killer anymore. He's trying to dictate the rules of society. He demands prime front-page placement for his codes. He meticulously designs intricate diagrams for these hypothetical bus bombs. In April 1970, he actually writes in to complain that people aren't wearing Zodiac buttons on their clothes. He even mails in a map of the Bay Area, telling the police they have to use geometric angles, or radians, to find a bomb he supposedly buried. He desperately wants to be this untouchable supervillain pulling the strings of the entire state of California.
Which brings us to Section 5, the final taunts.
By early 1974, years have gone by without a single confirmed attack, but out of nowhere the letters return. He sends in weird complaints about movie advertisements, he starts writing under new, bizarre pseudonyms like the Red Phantom, and he heavily quotes from the musical The Mikado. And then, in a letter postmarked January 29, 1974, he leaves us with this final, chilling box score. Me, 37. SFPD, 0. He's casually claiming a staggering 37 victims, which is wildly higher than the 5 actual murders confirmed by law enforcement.
So, as we close this explainer and shut the file, we're left with one haunting question. Did he truly claim 37 lives across the country, maybe dropping his famous signature to stay hidden as time went on? Or was he simply an aging narcissist who finally ran out of ways to control the narrative and just faded back into the mundane, everyday life he was so desperate to escape in the first place? The true identity of the Zodiac remains a total mystery, but the psychological blueprint he left behind pretty much guarantees that this phantom will never, ever be forgotten.